Benjamin Anthony Varela.
All right, Benjamin Anthony Varela, correct?
Yes.
All right. That's cause number 21-1-008988-34, State of Washington versus Benjamin Anthony Varela. We initially have to deal with the request for Mr. Varela to appear in restraints. The court has received a Thurston County Jail assessment in support of restraint of Mr. Varela.
And since September 30th, the information that you filed, has there been anything additional since September 30th that has happened?
Yes, he's been destructive of property, so he popped a sprinkler head, causing destruction to the entire jail. And then when we came to get him to pull him out and get him changed out, he failed to comply to the point where we had to form a special unit to extract him from the cell because he was failing to comply with directives.
So to be specific, though, September 30th, you stated that he destroyed the sprinkler head. That was the charge of malicious mischief. So are you saying he's destroyed more than one now?
Oh, my apologies. No, that was the same day. Yes, nothing additional.
So
3, 4, 5. In the last 5 days, what has occurred?
But to be specific, he's housed in our intake area in a special cell where he can't have access to a sprinkler head, so he can't cause further damage. And that's, so it limits his movement, and that is staff intensive.
All right. And how have his interactions been with staff in those 5 days?
Mostly, I would say they're appropriate, but then there are times that he will threaten staff. I don't have specifics on that. Those are just notes that I've seen.
You indicated that over the last 5 days that Mr. Varela has continued to make threats towards staff?
Yes.
And in the current unit where he is housed, is there also an inability to hopefully fashion any other weapons? Is his access to other materials limited?
Severely limited, yes. And then I would like to also note, Mr. Jenkins, you asked me about the notes. There was 4 on yesterday, just 10 on October 4th, 2 to include that he was banging his door, punching his door, and stuff like that. And I just want to reiterate that the use of restraints is used it's safe for not only the inmate, but all staff involved, because if force had to be used, it would be less force used if he was restrained than if he was not.
at that time, Your Honor, he was in a turtle suit. He was making, talking to walls, thought that he was in an escape room, is what he stated, and thought that that part of the game was for him to escape. And it's my understanding, after talking to him, he stated, and that was September 30th, he stated that they just started giving him the correct medication. And so looking at him now, he's no longer in a turtle suit. There's no more allegations of malicious mischief. There's no more allegations of escape tools. The only argument that's made now is that he's made threats, and he's banged on doors. So as far as what's in the motion for restraints, Your Honor, I objected back then at the fact that they used the fact that he's charged with an assault 1, which it is noted in the report that he was viciously attacked. And the only thing that has been consistent is verbal threats, and the fact that he noted there was banging on the door. And so based off of that, Your Honor, we are objecting to the restraints.
Thank you. Any summation?
Thank you, and I'll try and be brief. I understand the court's ruling and understanding of this, the Jackson case, but there's nothing, Your Honor, in the Jackson case that overrules State v. Walker, which is 185 Washington App 790, and also Court Rule 3.4b indicates that the jail, or that court rule, Your Honor, is that there's security sufficient to protect the safety of all participants and observers. It's interesting that Mr. Jenkins brings up the nature of the offense. That's defined by case law for something the court to consider. So I think the assault first degree while under the deadly weapon is absolutely relevant for the court. His custodial status is also relevant for the court. The jail has had to take extensive steps, Your Honor, to make sure that Mr. Varela does not have access to materials because of all the allegations. It's interesting, again, for Mr. Jenkins to try and say that we're simply in a vacuum from the 30th on. That's not true. We take all of the factors into consideration, which the court's already seeing in Deputy Cuellar's affidavit. And after all of this, he continues to be disruptive in the jail. He continues to make threats, and he continues to bang on the physical dimensions of the cell. His physical dimensions of the video booth, Your Honor, are also subject to consideration. It's a very small booth. The threats are very clear. His mental state is also something, Your Honor, that the state can consider.
It sounds to me that the medications are working to stabilize Mr. Varela, and that's a good thing. But I do believe that the request based on all in the aggregate of all the things the court must consider is warranted, and the request is granted for the purposes of this hearing. Is there an assigned attorney for Mr. Varela?
Yes, Your Honor, that would be Attorney Griffin.
All right, Mr. Griffin. And are there any issues at this juncture for this cause number regarding probable cause?
Not at this stage, Your Honor.
Thank you. Any issues with release conditions, Mr. Graham, that you're aware of?
Nothing that the state's aware of, Your Honor.
All right, future dates for Mr. Varela then.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'd ask that we place Mr. Varela on our 60-day calendar set with an omnibus hearing on October 20th at 9 o'clock, trial confirmation on November 18th at 8:30 with trial on November 29th at 8:30. That would be consistent with his custodial status and today's arraignment date on a 60-day speedy trial set.
I have the order and notice setting your next hearings for court. You will get a copy. Your omnibus hearing is October 20th at 9 a.m. Your trial confirmation hearing is November 18th at 8:30 a.m. And your trial is November 29th at 8:30 a.m. The court today considered whether or not you had stabilized enough so that you would not have to have restraints. It appears to me that you clearly are benefiting from your medication, and it's working well for you because you've been paying attention and staying calm throughout this hearing. The court is very encouraged by what it's seeing. I will send a copy of this order over. You try not to have conflict until you can get your matter heard by your attorney, and or your attorney can bring it to the attention of the court if some of your needs aren't being met. Okay? If Mr. Varela, you have any questions, sir?
No, I do not have any questions.
All right. You're welcome. You can tell the officers that you're ready to be returned. All right, then that concludes the 9 a.m. calendar.